I thought it could be interesting to share a sort of real-life example of what it can be like to have dominant NI, and how it can actually be a bit of an annoyance at times. I recently started a second job, and instead of being able to look forward to the new job and the new challenges that it would bring, I found myself firing off into the future and worrying about things that shouldn't really be on my mind right now. I love being the personality type that I am. I love having dominant NI. It can be really useful in lots of different situations, but it can also hinder you from enjoying things in the moment and appreciating the present as it is right now. I was finding that before I'd even started the job, I was worrying about the future, worrying about whether I actually wanted to do this job for the rest of my life. I hadn't even had a taste of the job. I had no idea what it would be like, how well I'd do in it, and I was already worried about whether it would be good for me to do for the rest of my life. I was wondering about when potential pay rises could happen, whether they'd be soon, whether they'd be far into the future. If it's going to be within the next 6 months, then I shouldn't think about potentially moving house. My NI was firing off, trying to think of all the ways that this job could benefit me and all the ways that it could potentially cause problems for me. It was just interesting to see it play out in real time and be able to watch it now that I understand more about my personality type. I could see this all playing out. I could see what was happening, why it was happening, and be able to pull a bit more on my SE and tell myself to calm down and just enjoy the job. Enjoy having a new challenge, enjoy being in a place that I don't know what I'm doing anymore. I need to start from the bottom and be trained up. Enjoy learning and gleaning information from those that do understand the job more. Enjoy doing something different for a change. I've always loved a challenge and learning new things. And I had to remind myself that, yes, it's very easy for me to run off into the future and worry about whether I want to do this forever or whatever. But it's also important for me to take a step back, pull on my SE, and just enjoy what I'm experiencing now. Enjoy having a little bit more money, enjoy the fact that I'm going to be learning new things every day and I'm going to have loads of things to talk about and share. Enjoy meeting the new people, building relationships with them, and to have a good opportunity of balancing out my personality a little bit more, to not always be so heavy with my NI, to be able to use some of my other functions a bit more, especially my SE, of enjoying things just how they are right now. This could be a good opportunity for me to strengthen that more. I think it's one thing to understand your strengths and weaknesses of your personality type by reading them online or by learning about them. It's another thing when you actually experience something in life that shows your strengths and weaknesses, that shows me that my NI does like to run away into the future and try and plan out everything to avoid any pitfall that might potentially come up, and to go off in the best course before I've even taken that first step. And how, yes, that can be helpful because it can help me to avoid things that could go wrong. I can make changes before I've even started to ensure that I aim for the best course of action, the best outcome, but at the same time it can stop me from actually doing anything in the first place. I found for me that my NI does actually stop me from doing a lot of things because I always want to think things over before I start. That can be anything from starting a new hobby. I want to see if I can figure out whether I'd be good at doing it, whether I'd enjoy doing it, whether it's worth spending any money on in the first place, to big things like changing jobs, changing houses, changing location of where you live, things like that. Even down to small things like talking, explaining things to people. Sometimes I know it can be quite common for INFJs to take a while to actually say anything because they're trying to mull over the best way of putting it across in the beginning, rather than just jumping in and seeing how it goes. It's not something that's natural for us, but it can be very helpful. We can't always figure out the best course of action before we've started. We don't have all the information we need. SE can give us that information. Just trying things sometimes can actually help us out because then we have something to go on. We have some information that we can then filter through to see where we need to go from here. Having NI is great, but it does often like to run on very limited information and just fire off into the future to decide the best course of action when actually you don't have any current information. It was a while ago since I started a job before. I didn't know about personality types back then, so I've learned a lot more since my last experience, so it's not helpful for my NI to just run off into the future based on my past experiences, because I've learned a lot since I've grown. I'm older than I was before. I've matured, have a lot more experience that I can use to make better decisions. So rather than my NI just jump in and assume that lots of things could go wrong, well, they might not, because I'm older and more mature than I was. There's a high chance I'm able to make a better decision in the beginning. I think that's why it's important that we all learn and grow as people and try and round out our personalities a bit more, rather than just focusing too much on one or two functions that we like, that are natural for us, and forgetting about the others. We need to be more well-rounded, because all of the functions can help us. It's not just my NI that's useful. My SE can be very useful as well. Yes, I'm not naturally as good at using it, but it can still help me out. And the same with my shadow functions. It can be helpful for me to pull on my NE a little bit more, and to just try out a load of different potential possibilities to see which one could work, rather than having to have planned out the whole route before I even start. That can be helpful because it can stop me from entering into things that aren't great, but at the same time I don't learn and grow. Sometimes it's useful to go into situations that don't come out as you plan, that you end up not getting the perfect outcome, you end up failing. Well, failing is just another way of saying that you learn and grow. You never really fail, and if there's an opportunity for you to learn something new. And I think having dominant NI can almost hinder us from doing that, hinder us from trying things that we probably will fail in. But that's not always a bad thing. We don't have to be perfect. We don't have to achieve everything we set out to do. We don't have to accomplish everything and be the best that we can be in every single aspect of our lives. Sometimes it's incredibly helpful for us to do a bad job in things, to fail, to mess up completely, because that's how we grow. You never learn and grow if you do everything perfect first time. You don't learn about perseverance. You don't learn about how to encourage yourself again if you've fallen over. You will never understand how you're supposed to pick yourself back up, dust yourself off, and try again. If you've always won everything the first time you've tried it, and you've never experienced failing anything, then how are you supposed to know? They're the ones that end up almost being the worst off, because they don't know how to lose. They don't know how to mess something up. They don't know how to learn from their mistakes. It's something that everybody needs to learn, that we start off trying to figure out as children, often getting cross with ourselves, but as we get older, we should learn to appreciate the mistakes we make, because they help us to grow as people. I wouldn't be who I am today if it wasn't for all the things I've gone through, or the things I've decided on doing that haven't turned out as I've planned. Things like doing my criminology degree. I had a plan for that. I wanted to be a police officer, a detective, but that didn't work out. That doesn't mean I failed. That doesn't mean that I made the wrong decision, because I learnt an awful lot from doing that degree. I still have a massive interest in it, and hopefully in the near future I'll use that one way, whether it's another YouTube channel, podcast, something on this channel. I'm still working on that, but it doesn't mean that it was a bad decision, that it was something I shouldn't have done, because if I hadn't have made the decision to go to university, then I wouldn't be the person I am today. I wouldn't have learnt the things I did. I wouldn't have grown in the way I have. So I think it's important for us, people with dominant NI, or I guess even secondary NI can still play a big role, to still jump in there if we're unsure, to not always feel like we need to know every single aspect before we take that first step. We can still have a couple of question marks in areas, to sort of pull back with that, I need to make sure that I can do this before I start. Just give it a go. I know it's difficult for us to do, but it is helpful for us to have a vague idea, feel like it could work, base it on your own personal strengths. Yes, I can see this being something that I could be good at, but then not knowing all the specific details, to still go anyway, to still try it out. It can be very helpful, and if nothing else, it's another learning experience. If it doesn't work out, then it's not the end of the world. It just means you've learnt something new. If you've got another thing that you now know you're not great at, or it isn't something for you, then that's wonderful. We're all learning and growing as people. We all want to learn more about ourselves, figure out who we are and what we want in life. And it's very difficult for us to do that if we never try new things. I know that's something that people with dominant NI and SI a lot as well struggle to do, try out new things that they don't have any information on to base it on. Whether it's past experience, other people, things they've researched, whatever. If we don't have any idea whether it would be a good idea or not, then we're more inclined to not try it until we've researched it, or until we know somebody that's worked in that area or something. It's helpful for us to just try it anyway, learn to trust ourselves a bit more. Because I wonder if that's a part of having NI, that it means we don't necessarily trust in our own abilities too much to be able to figure things out, even if we don't know what we're doing to begin with. That it might be a good idea to do that, to just take that first step, to take that jump and see where we end up. Because if we win, if we succeed, then, well, that's brilliant. And if we don't, then we've learned a new lesson, and it's helped us to grow and mature as a person, and to become a better person than we were before we made that first step. So either way, basically you win. I recently heard a Nelson Mandela quote that I can't remember specifically, but I'll paraphrase. Something along the lines of, you never fail, you only ever win or learn. That there is no losing, there is no, oh, that didn't work, cross it off, and what a waste of my time. There is nothing of that. There's always a lesson you can learn. There's always something you can glean from the situation or experience you've just had that can help you to grow as a person, or can help you to narrow down where you want to go in life. Maybe you can't decide on a career path. Well, then trying something and realising you hate it, well, then you know not to go in that area. Then you can look deeper and see, why do I not like it? Is it because it's too much customer service? Is it because I'm on the phone too much and I don't like that? Is it because of the ethics or morals of the company? You can narrow it down to see why you don't like that, and then that can help you to focus you more onto the area you might be interested in. I just think life's a big journey of discovery, of figuring out who you are and what you want. It's important to make sure that NI doesn't stop us from doing that, because we don't have all the answers. Not initially, we've got to learn. Anyways, a bit of a different video from normal. I just sort of wanted to freeball it a little, just talk about why NI can be good and why it can be bad. But as always, I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you for your time.